Welcome back to Call Me By Your Game, the podcast where I, your host, Connor McCabe, bring on a guest to hear from them about a meaningful or memorable video game from a particular moment in their life. This is a podcast about what makes video games special to different people. And today, you're listening to Co-op Episode 70, a variation of the format where I actually have a group of people on to discuss a game in more of an overview format. So we might have some, intimate or special stories being shared by people today, but I'm not really so concerned with that. I want to hear what people think about a game that we've all usually played recently. And today, people might know that I've been on a bit of a PSP kick this year. So we're going to be discussing our second title from that console in just the last few months, and this is God of War: Ghost of Sparta, released in 2010. The second one, and what a lot of people say is the good one. So I'm excited to get into that a little more today. This is the audio format for this podcast is a Patreon exclusive that people get at our $10 Engineer Toad tier. But as you know, you might be watching this on YouTube for free a week later. Thank you so much, whether you're a supporter on Patreon or just listening on our YouTube. Thank you a ton. If you know somebody who likes God of War, the series, or specifically this game for the PSP, I'd love if you shared this video with them, because I think this discussion is going to be pretty fun. As far as the other housekeeping goes, you can follow us all over social media on Blue Sky and Instagram on our Call Me By Your Game page. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know what's coming next month, so episode 71 remains a mystery. Let's bring our guests in. We've got three, what should I say, Greek gods joining me today. First, let's start alphabetically. Returning, someone who I refuse to do a God of War podcast and not have him on. It's Nick Costanza.
Hello, boy.
Thank you. Sadly, not relevant for today's episode, although we do see two boys in this game.
True. Sorry, let me redo it. Hello, boys.
I'll take it. Nick, it's great to have you back, buddy. As people, I'm sure the listeners, they haven't forgotten. They've got all the co-op episodes memorized, who was on them, how important they were. But you and I had discussed both God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok in back-to-back years on
Yes.
this co-op series. So, buddy, thanks for coming back.
I love those games and given another opportunity to play one I've never played before, I had to jump on it.
Awesome. Well, buddy, it's great to have you here. Do you want to plug social media or anything before I introduce our next Greek god?
You can follow me at Nick Costanza on most socials.
Awesome. Let's welcome in our next guest, someone who I've never discussed God of War with, and after this day, I may never do it again. Janet Garcia, welcome.
Hello, I'm one of the good gods.
Yeah. And you always know the good gods, they'll tell you that they're one
Yeah,
of the good gods, right?
people are asking me questions that my good god shirt kind of already answers. It's one of those situations.
Well, Janet, it's great to have you back on Call Me By Your Game in general, but the co-op series. I last had you on when we discussed Yoshi's Island a couple years back. I know you're a platformer stan by nature, but I'm having you on to talk about an action adventure hack and slash game. So I hope the change in, format wasn't too crazy for you.
Yeah, it's all nostalgia in some ways, even though this is also my first time with it. So it's like
Awesome.
nostalgia for a game I haven't played yet.
Yes. I know that, I'm always looking for a reason to get everybody who I like discussing games with back on the co-op format. But I was extra interested to have you on because you played, not to get into your history with God of War too much, but you played Sons of Sparta this year, and you might be the only person who I've heard of who played it.
Yeah, I'm the one of the few, one of the proud. There's dozens of us, and
Yes.
of the dozens that have played it, like four of us finished it, and I'm also one of those four. So,
Wow.
you know, I wanted to be really prepared for this episode, so I really like went above and beyond. It's just how I am.
Good, good. You're in some good company there. Do you want to plug anything as well while you're here? Anywhere you want people to find you on the internet?
Yeah, again, my name is Garcia. I'm a game critic and content creator. I'm on many podcasts, but the long and the short of it is you can follow me on social media under the handle Gameonysus. That's Game Onysus. I also have GameOnysus.com, which is just like my general portfolio site if you want to catch up on everything it is that I do.
Awesome. Uh, bringing somebody in who, again, his fatherhood has nothing to do with the episode, was also on the Yoshi's Island co-op episode, and I'm trying to remember if there's been one since that this guest was on, but nonetheless, it's Charlie Mihelich who's back. Charlie, welcome.
I was on last month's
Oh yeah,
co-op episode.
yeah, we talked about Max Payne, the original
Yes.
Max Payne. That's right.
Yes, so it's only been a few weeks.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you for having me. Very excited to talk about this game, which features the most famous uttering of the phrase, "Now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." The only person who's ever said it with any notoriety.
And Charlie, had you not maybe spoiled what you're hinting at in a text message to me earlier, I would be just absolutely in the dark about this, because I might be the only person in the world who didn't see Oppenheimer.
He just is known for saying that. You kept saying you didn't see the movie, but like he's a guy,
I don't
a
know
real
about
guy,
Oppenheimer.
and he was so overcome with shame by the development of the nuclear bomb that he was like, "Oh, I have now become death, destroyer of worlds."
Well, you know,
Kratos could have took him.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
1v1, Kratos, Oppenheimer. Kratos would win every time.
Kratos versus a bomb. Kratos is gonna win.
Yep.
well,
do you-
Charlie,
Connor, you
Well,
never saw
yeah.
Barbenheimer?
I saw I didn't see the Oppenheimer half of those movies, but I did see Barbie.
Shame.
I
The
know.
gods will pay.
I'm in the same boat,
Yes,
so we can take him, Connor. Don't worry about it.
huge. At least there's two of us. Charlie, buddy, welcome back. Max Payne was so recently I didn't even remember that you were on it. What do you want to plug while you're here, buddy? I know you got a podcast out there.
Yeah,
somewhere.
you can listen to my podcast, Baywatch Watch, wherever you get your podcasts. Zach Olson and I are watching every episode of Baywatch. We're almost done with season 8.
Out of how many?
Out of 9
Okay.
regular, 3 Baywatch Hawaii, and 2 Baywatch Nights. And we've already done the Baywatch Nights one, so
Okay.
we've got
And-
4 seasons left.
One Baywatch movie.
We already did the Baywatch movie.
Mm,
Yeah.
Great.
And the reboot, maybe we'll do that.
Well, we'll find your podcast. I'll put a link in the show notes, Charlie. How about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, we've got our panel of the 3 Greek gods here, and I don't know. I guess that makes me Kratos. I guess. I mean, if I have to be Kratos, I guess I'll do it. Before we get into
Really want it to be Kratos.
Yeah, sorry, Nick. You're I don't know, Thanatos or whatever, whoever that is. Before we talk about our main discussion and share our opinions, in depth at least, on God of War: Ghost of Sparta, we're gonna talk about our personal histories with the series. Nick, you've kind of gotten into this on the pod before because I've had you on for the 2 PS4/PS5 God of War games, but it's been a while. Would you recap your history with the series and this game as well?
Connor, I'd be honored to. I originally heard about this series because it was so cool and edgy, and I didn't have any PlayStation to play the early ones on. I watched a cutscene compilation of the first 3, I think,
Okay.
and I remember thinking it was awesome. When I got a PS3, like a few years after it was out, God of War 3 was one of the first games I bought. I started playing it. It looked awesome. I was writing on Gaia, but I had no idea what was going on. And I just thought, I got to play these from the beginning, put it down, never did that. 2018 comes around. I'm hearing all this hype. I love Norse mythology. I love the idea of going from one to the other. Reminded me of Age of Mythology, which was one of my favorite games. And I bought that one, played it, loved it. Ragnarok came out, played it, liked it.
And you had like the flu or like COVID when you did Ragnarok, didn't you?
I did. I believe I maybe played it sick and recorded sick.
I think so. You played it in like a week too.
I did. I really blasted through it. And that might have been why I didn't love it as much. But either way, I have an affection for these games, and I still need to play those other ones, and I really want to now because of this one.
Awesome. Yeah, Nick, I'll remember you being on that episode, just barely able to kind of be there. Almost felt bad having you even stick around for it, but here we are all these years later. And we got another God of War to look forward to. Is there a date? Is that projected next
Mm-mm.
year? No date?
No date.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll have to update the listeners when we do have one.
I'll just say this about that because that game's getting some like annoying fan criticism or whatever online right now. Um, they set this character up way in advance in those games. This ain't no woke issue or nothing. I know I shouldn't even like have to address that, but just in case anybody gets affected by those talking points, it's just going to be another fun God of War game with the new character. It's Karen Page from Daredevil. Who doesn't like her? Get over it.
Nick, if you hadn't said that, I think our listeners would have been like, gosh, is this podcast like kind of chuddy? But we had one person who said it. So I'm glad you spoke up. Thanks, pal.
Welcome.
Janet, what's your history with this series?
Yeah, it's almost a complete history. I played the originals when they like were released, so like God of War on the PS2, the other PS2 game, which is God of War 2, God of War 3 on PS3. I even had like one of the collections. I forget which one because they've had a couple collections. I think
Yeah.
I did get the entirety one. Then of course I played Chains of Olympus also on PSP.
Oh,
Had
wow.
never played Ghost of Sparta. It was like one of the few I'm missing. So this was my first time playing it for this podcast. And then again kind of going out of order, but then I played just the, 2018 Ragnarok and Sons of Sparta, which came out this year, the Metroidvania that's sort of made by, oh geez, what's the name of the studio? It's the indie studio that developed it, Mega Cat Studio in
Oh,
collaboration with
okay.
Santa Monica. Yeah, so now I'm only missing Ascension, and apparently there was a God of War mobile game called Betrayal.
Hmm.
So
It was a
Okay.
Java game
only two remain. I don't know
Wow.
that I'm getting to Betrayal. That might be a little rough to reconfigure, but
and hard to find. Yeah.
yeah, though, on the internet
Oh,
you can
yeah.
load anything onto the PSP, I found out. So, it's
Yes.
yeah, so I've been there since the start. Love
Wow.
the games. Originally, I think it was just really fun to have that strong gameplay and the Greek mythology angle, I think is really
Mhm.
what made those games stand out. It was just like a really unique and specific vision. Then when the 2018 ones dropped, I feel like I had the feeling everyone had, which is like, well, it was fun when we played back then, but it was kind of, a little bit more mindless mechanically than I think what we're used to in the modern era. Like, how will that be now? And I think 2018 was incredible. I do like Ragnarok a lot. I favor that over 2018. I think it's
Okay.
a little bit of a less clean game, but I think the mess is beneficial. I think what they do with the side characters and the general world in that game is really fun. And yeah, I'm excited for what they do next. And then like I said, I played the Metroidvania, which is it's a little messy. It's not the best game, but I was kind of just bought in on it. Like me and my husband Isaiah were both playing it simultaneously, and we both agreed that like this isn't really that good, but like what if we played all of it?
Yeah.
And we just kept going, and it's like there are good things in there, but it definitely is like an uneven Metroidvania. And when you have a messy Metroidvania, it's like one of the more grating genres to fall short of because it's
Mhm.
such a like chunky retreading ground. Like the genre itself is a little stiff, and I say that as a fan of that genre. So when you fumble, it's really felt in ways that don't come across in I think like
Yeah.
an action adventure format. So yeah, but then having played that, I ended up being really excited playing this one because it felt like again out of order for how I was supposed to play the games, but I'm like, hey, it's the brother I was hanging out with. Okay, it's all coming together. So I felt weirdly invested in this and really had a good time with it for that reason.
Awesome. Very cool. And so did you play this on your PSP?
I did, yeah.
Okay, nice. Charlie.
Similar to Janet, I'm kind of a day one. I played God of War in 2005 when it came out. It was the most jaw-dropping game I've ever seen, visually and viscerally, and that I played it, up until that point. Then God of War 2 was even more of the same, but it's 2 or 3 times as good as God of War 1. Like, they've just refined everything. If you go back and play God of War 1 right now, it's an incredibly frustrating game. There are just quality of life influences or improvements that went from God of War 1 to 2 that are just, you can never go back from. I am always so impressed by the scale of these games in terms of their ability to, especially in the ones before you get to 2018 and Ragnarok, their ability to utilize the camera, the fixed camera, to show absolutely jaw-dropping vistas and scenes in the background that make you feel that everything that you are encountering, whether it be architecture, bosses, whatever, is absolutely massive. That, it is, and they're just like eye candy all the time. So after 2, I bought District 9 on Blu-ray when it was released on Blu-ray, and that came with a demo of God of War 3.
Whoa.
That you put the Blu-ray into your PS3, and then you could access the demo. So I played the demo, and I could not wait for that game to come out. When that game came out, I felt that it was like the pinnacle of, like, it is, like, as you mentioned, it starts with the assault on Olympus. You're riding the back of a Titan, and you're climbing up, and you're seeing Titans get knocked off of Olympus as they're climbing up. You are fighting on Gaia. You're using her both for platforming, for traversal, and then eventually you're using her as a weapon. And that game just gets cooler and crazier from there, and is kind of a perfect end to the trilogy. God of War Ascension is kind of the one that everyone says is the worst of the series. It opens with the best boss fight in the entire series. You are essentially fighting on a giant, like, floating, they're like buildings that reach up into the stratosphere, and there is a almost like tentacled, half plant, half like face monster that is wrapped around this building, and you are like slowly taking parts of it out, and then eventually you are commandeering its arms to beat it with its own arms, like while you're like riding it. It's unreal. And then after that, the game gets incredibly frustrating because it's a prequel. They took a lot of steps back in the combat. They, instead of adding new weapons, it's entirely Chains of Olympus focused.
Okay.
And you're just using different elements that are part of it, and each enemy requires a different element to fight. So the fights are really frustrating. Also, your moves, how in this one where you put red orbs in and then you get stronger and you get more moves. In that one, it's entirely based on your combo meter. So every time you get hit, your combo meter goes back down, and you lose the moves and the strength that you had accumulated based on your flow state. So it is like, it's so frustrating.
Even on my best fights, I'm getting hit at least once in this game.
Exactly. Like, this isn't a game that prioritizes perfection at all. And then God of War 2018, I thought was great. I loved it. It's, a lot of people say it's like, the best in the series. I still have such affection for 3. That what I missed in God of War was that sense of scale, because of the fact that they chose the intimate behind the camera view that never cuts. They do some incredible things with it, and I think it's a great game. It has probably my favorite moment from the entire series, which is heading home and retrieving the chains. And like I remember my jaw like being on the floor because I was so excited to have them again. Ragnarok, I did really enjoy. I agree that it's a little messy. I also felt it was like the most Disney-fied of the series. Like it was a little like more like Avengers-y and like that kind of like it was like getting the gang together
Is
and
it just
kind
because
of
Thor's in there, Charlie?
yeah, just because Thor's in there. But it was like, it was just like a little bit for how serious the idea of Ragnarok is. I felt that God of War 2018 tonally was stronger from a story and character perspective. Though I think Ragnarok has some, fantastic moments. It's also a little too long. Probably should have been 2 games. But yeah, and this game, this is my 3rd playthrough of Ghost of Sparta. And I've played Chains of Olympus 1. This is so much better than Chains of Olympus. Chains of Olympus is a great proof of concept. Like when I first played it, I was like, oh my God, they got God of War on PSP and they actually did it. But it's like 2 enemies on screen at once, like a lot of like they put pretty much their entire budget into like the opening level. And then from there,
that is
just,
the level I remember the most.
Yes,
But it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't know how many times I've played it. That's
the
funny.
ship battle and all that stuff. Yeah,
I gotta go back then because I'm like in my mind they're kind of the same, and I feel like people talk about them like they're the same.
This one is like a console. I think this is a console quality God of War, and I think has very few compromises. Especially some of the things that they pull off in this game. Whereas I felt that Chains of Olympus was like, can we do it? And then Ghost of Sparta was like, can we perfect it?
This was confident. That's for sure.
A very confident game.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a retrospective take on Ragnarok. I think I agree. It's too long. It was either too long or gosh, I really think it needed like something to heighten like a Ghost of Sparta moment, like full on you're seeing lava mountain explode in the background, get into one of those God of War 3 like fully epic titans fighting.
Agree.
They have giants introduced, like bring them in. It was just
like Ragnarok itself, the battle was a little underwhelming because it was really short. That is probably the shortest portion of the game is the actual battle of Ragnarok itself.
Even God of War 2018 has a moment where the frozen giant gets resurrected.
Oh yeah,
we should be seeing 2 giants in the next one.
Yeah,
like
you have one in the first game. You got to make it 2 in the next game.
That's math, Connor.
It is, and I'm good at math. You know what I'm also good at is telling my history with the God of War series, which admittedly is a bit slim. My entry point was 2018, and I didn't play that though until fall of 2021. So it took me a while to get to it. I think that was back when I think some of my final days of subscribing to PS Plus before I was like, this is a waste of money. But I used that to play some of their like classics catalog, including God of War 2018, and I also absolutely fell in love with that game. You can go and listen to a whole 2-hour podcast on it. It was from 4.5 years ago or whatever. So even in the free feed now if you want to check that out. I then followed that up the next fall by playing God of War Ragnarok, which conveniently for me, I had to wait less than a year for that game to come out. I was also pretty positive on it, but like some of the opinions that have been shared here, and I think it's kind of what I might describe as the consensus for most people I hear is that I did prefer the experience of 2018 a little more. I felt like it was a little more fine and focused than Ragnarok, but still got so much out of Ragnarok, and there's plenty that I think they did to improve on the gameplay, and it was fantastic. So this game, Ghost of Sparta, marks my first foray into the classic God of War style games. I had seen video footage from these for years, but I had never even turned one on. And I, being a little obsessed with the PSP this year, as I've said, because I got it as for a Christmas gift last year. Shout out to
Oh.
Amanda for probably the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten. I've been playing games on this thing, and I was like, you know what? I want to see if that game is any good or not. And turns out it's pretty dang good in my opinion. So I it also has made me very curious about checking out the rest of the series. I've definitely scrolled some eBay listings for like whatever the different collections are, like Janet was mentioning for the PS3. I know I could play Chains of Olympus on this thing that I have, but I'm curious to dive into those and really excited for, forgive the pronunciation, but Lafe, whenever it comes out. I'm really excited about that too. Um, let's get into some history and context for what this title actually is. Like I told you guys too, if you want to jump in at any point, add on, correct me, feel free. I'm just gonna monologue for what are about 3 paragraphs provided by the good people over at Wikipedia. So without further ado, God of War: Ghost of Sparta is a 2010 action-adventure game developed by Ready at Dawn and published by Sony Computer Entertainment. Sony Santa Monica also was involved in this game, but Ready at Dawn people also might know for I'm pretty sure they developed the Daxter game on the
Yep.
PSP as well. So pretty great track record by this studio on that console. Uh, this was originally released for the PSP on November 2nd, 2010, and it's the 6th installment in the series, but 5th chronologically. It technically, I was looking up some information about it. It takes place, according to the game's director, between God of Wars 1 and 2. For those of you who have played that game or those games, do you see how it kind of fits in there? Charlie, you're shaking your head, yes?
I mean, the very like end of the game where he goes like, "The gods will pay," is him basically stepping into God of War 2 and
Okay.
being like, becoming the God of War. I have been completely betrayed by the gods, and they used me as a pawn.
Okay. Awesome. Great.
It helped me. It filled in a funny blank from the very little I played of God of War 3. I remember that he fights Poseidon, and this sets up that beef.
Yes.
And I thought, oh, I remember playing this and thinking, why is he fighting him right now?
Oh, interesting. Okay, so it is a nice little bridge between those two. Um, as one could guess, loosely based on Greek mythology, Ghost of Sparta is set in ancient Greece. The player controls Kratos, the god of war, and he's still haunted by the visions of his mortal past and decides to explore his origins. In Atlantis, he finds his mother, Callisto, who claims that his brother Deimos is still alive. And throughout the game, he's having flashbacks to their time together as kids, but specifically a time where Deimos is, or the event that gets highlighted the most is when Deimos gets captured and kidnapped. Later, it's revealed who he's captured and kidnapped by. I don't think they tell you initially. And so Kratos journeys to the domain of death to rescue his brother. After initial resentment from Deimos, they team up to battle the god of death, Thanatos, Deimos' captor, and the game. Yeah, I already said when it takes place between. The gameplay is similar to those of previous installments and focuses on the combination-based combat. I've sort of described it as like a hack and slash game. It's reminiscent of a couple things for me. Again, I'm so new to this series that this is probably well trodden territory, but it reminds me of games like anything you see Platinum direct, whether it be a Devil May Cry, a Metal Gear Rising. It even reminds me kind of when it comes to like the combos and the fighting, Nick reminds me a little bit of Batman Arkham Asylum in some ways. Far more,
See that?
grandiose and flashy, but the combat as far as keeping your combos going together, just it reminded me of that.
Does anybody remember that Dante's Inferno
Yeah,
game.
that was like
Oh,
a game that was like a 1-to-1 clone of God of War, and
They
there
like,
was
fully ripped it off.
I mean, God of War became its own genre of games. Like, if you go back and look at a lot of like movie tie-in games from back then, like the Ghost Rider game, or if you were to play there was a Conan game that came out in like 2007. That one
O'Brien?
was like, yeah, it was a Conan O'Brien game.
it's just a lot of
And
triumph side
see,
quests.
no, it's you fighting Jay Leno.
Okay.
but yeah, like they're just like God of War became the thing to clone. Everyone
Okay.
wanted a God of War.
Oh.
That game,
So-
Dante's Inferno, it did have a great trailer set to Ain't No Sunshine. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
It's a
I'll
good
have to look it
game.
up.
It's like the most confident or competent of the God of War clones.
Okay, interesting. There's two main weapon sets in this game. We've got the Blades of Athena, and then a secondary weapon. I think they're called the Arms of Sparta, which is a spear and a shield, which I don't know if it's exactly the weapon that's brought back in Ragnarok, but it certainly was reminiscent of having a spear and throwing it. Honestly, one of
Yeah.
the coolest parts of Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Throwing
I love
thing,
that spear. I love that
exploding
spear.
them on people.
Just figuring out what the holes did.
Yeah.
Because you saw them for so long. You're like, obviously, I'm going to get something that's going to allow me to do something with
Yes.
these. And then for it to be the spear. And it's also one of those things that a big thing that stood out to me playing this game was how obvious all their other decisions are and how much sense they make. Where it's like, well, of course they would pursue this path or bring this weapon back or explore these characters more because like they have already kind of done it. But so it almost made me want to go back and like comb more carefully over the older games to
Mhm.
see like where they might be going next with like elements of their ideas to some degree.
Yeah.
It made me want to go back and play Ragnarok and see if he uses the spear in the same way. Like Spartan style. I can't recall.
The spear is, I mean, it's not the same one because it's not the Spartan one. That's
Yeah,
a
it's like this-
custom. It's a custom built weapon in the game in Ragnarok, where it's like we have to make this, and you have to like collect all the
yeah.
materials and stuff, right? And
One
You
of
have
the
to go
brothers
into
does
the
that.
Finding Nemo underwater ride.
it's forged for you, and it's very specific because you can't kill the like weird elf guys without it or something.
It will always stick with me when he uses it in the cutscene in the fight against Heimdall.
Oh yeah,
That was one of my favorite moments in that game.
yeah. But yeah, the Spartan arms they're very cool.
Yeah. So that's great. There's those two weapon sets you can use. There's some like light puzzle platforming. I'm even kind of hesitant to call it that, but they do have that in this game. There are magic abilities that you get, including ways to sort of like imbue your weapons with fire at a certain point, which is really cool and something I leaned on quite heavily.
Me too.
It's got it's a step up from that of Chains of Olympus is sort of the common thought, and then as far as like its critical reception and how it did, Ghost of Sparta received praise from critics for its story scope and graphical illustration, and there was, I guess, some criticism for the general lack of gameplay innovation from its predecessor. A little surprising for me to hear, being my first one that I ever played, but you know, it's certainly possible. And according to Wikipedia, God of War Ghost of Sparta is the 17th best-selling PSP game. It sold 1.2 million units just on that console alone. But I think the combination pack of, I think it's called God of War Origins, which is this game in chains for the PS3, sold like 2.5 million. So it sold a little more than that. It was this game was remastered and re-released on September 13th, 2011 as a part of, yes, the Origins collection, and remastered version was also re-released on August 28th, 2012 as part of the God of War saga, both of these being for the PlayStation 3. Do either of those sound familiar, Janet, as far as your collections go?
Yeah, because I think there's the one that has the two games, and then there's one that has the two games, one that has the three games, and then one that has 5 of the games.
Yeah.
I had the one that had the 3 games.
Okay, gotcha.
And I believe that was like my replay of them just because they came out in a bundle and, you know,
Yeah.
why not?
Okay, awesome. Do any of you, that's all I have for the history and context and just setting the table. Do any of you have anything you'd like to add before you move on?
I looked
Just
it
that I
up.
think it's sorry, I was just gonna say the Metacritic's Ghost of Sparta 86, Chains of Olympus 91. So I don't know, but
Whoa.
it's always so funky looking back on how we did criticism back there and to even begin with.
It's
But
a
I just
new
think that's kind of interesting.
newness bias as well, because I think the fact that people were able to put a UMD in their PSP and have something that looked like Chains of
Yeah.
Olympus show up, and it didn't feel super compromised, especially in that opening level. From like, I think that just everyone was like, oh, holy shit, they did it. And for Ghost of Sparta, I think it's just, when it's the second one, it's the same. I think it's kind of the same reason
The Ragnarok effect.
Ragnarok. Yeah, the Ragnarok effect, where it's just like, oh yeah, like everything has been tweaked for the better in this game in Ragnarok, but people are still like, it wasn't as good because we were so bowled over by how fresh 2018 felt that it's just like, if the first one's like, okay, two's gonna be unreal. If the first one's like unbelievable and they're like, this is the top of the mountain, you can only go down.
Mhm.
I think not to go full Avengers, but needs more Thor. That guy was great.
Which
Felt like
game?
in Ragnarok.
Oh.
He just wasn't in it enough for me.
I thought you were about to say something about this game, and I was
Well-
like, what are you? I'm confused.
I mean, put him in here too. I'm not complaining about it. I looked it up. The name of the hammer from Ragnarok is Dropnir.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, wait, the spear.
The spear. Okay.
I'm all
Right.
confused.
Mjolnir is the-
Mjolnir is
Yeah.
yeah, we all know that.
Yeah, my favorite weapon in Marvel Rivals.
Of course.
Hey, they should have put Angela in Ragnarok.
Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Let's move on to the main event, our discussion on our thoughts on this game. I already kind of said it. I'll kick things off for us, but
Oh, I didn't say what I played this on.
Charlie, what'd you play this on?
I played this on my Retroid Pocket 5. Yeah, and it was emulated. But I do own.
I emulated it on the PSP.
Yeah.
Who said that?
Yeah,
It wouldn't be
but
me.
I played it at 4 times resolution, so 1080p at 60, and there's also a hack to force 60 frames per second. It's the way to play it. Like I even plugged my Retroid into my TV, connected a Bluetooth controller, and was
All
playing
types
it
of
on
crimes
there.
you had going on.
And
So you corked your bat basically to play this game. You know what I mean?
oh yeah. But the fact that you could cork your bat and it looked that good, because I'll tell you, there's some PSP games that if you cork the bat, you're like, oh yeah, this needs to be in 480p because it is showing every rough edge. Whereas this, I think is significantly improved visually, with the upscaling on without any compromise to performance, which is insane. Because there are games that suffer when you upscale.
You showed me a few videos too when you were experimenting with that, and I was pretty impressed at how it looked. And I think I got a preview of that during my playthrough on the PSP, because there would be moments where it would, I think, briefly run for 60 frames per second. And Janet, I don't know if you experienced this. It would usually be like running through a certain part of a hallway where maybe there were just less assets. I would just get a flash of what it could be. Maybe even on the PS3 or what you were playing, Charlie.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's that. Just so everyone knows where I'm coming from on this.
And Nick, you were also on the Retroid Pocket?
No, my answer is parody first. I played on my computer using an app called PPSSPP, and it's an emulator. And
Gotcha.
I plugged in my PlayStation 5 controller into my computer and played it on the monitor.
Ooh.
And I thought this thing looked great. Full size on the monitor.
Mhm.
It played smooth. The only issue I had was that square and triangle were reversed, and I could
Oh,
not figure out how to change it. So I had to
Oh,
learn for those quick time events
I would
to
have
hit the
lost
Oh
every
opposite.
quick
no.
time event on that.
that would have
On,
killed me.
on the
I died
PSP,
several times.
this thing was muddy as hell. You couldn't see anything. I was like, is the brightness up on the console? And the answer was always yes. Now
Uh-huh.
you can do it. It's fine. It performs adequately, but it is funny where it's like playing on the PSP in general, it is that feeling of, man, like I love this device so much. I'm with you, Connor. I've been in on the PSP forever, and whenever I go back to it, I'm always thrilled by it, and that's still the case. But it is that feeling of like, oh, this is so much better than some stuff we have now in terms of like the format, the
Hmm.
cool like innovations it had. But then also I'm like, it's kind of hard to see,
Yes.
but I don't know. You can tune your eyes to it a bit. It's definitely very playable. And I something I really like about this game as a handheld game, it's part of that interesting era where handheld games were to some degree lesser versions of their console counterparts, right? And I think even like with the praise that we have for this game, where we all agree that it's like good or more level, and it being one of those standouts, it is still like a teeny God of War. It has less going on with the story, less going on with the scale, less like intense boss fights. And part of that is because like the context of you being on a handheld device. But what's also kind of cool about that is this was made for handheld. In the modern era, even though I'm going to sound like an old man, but it's like, oh, you can play modern games in a handheld form on Steam Deck, sure, but it's not like those games were made to be handheld games. They're just games. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the nice thing about this era is this works so well on a handheld because it was made for a handheld. So you have like a cajillion checkpoints and like so many
Yes.
ways to like take a break if you want to. Like I ended up playing this game, like throughout this week on the lead up to the show, but I was like, "Ugh, I kind of almost wish I did like a save point a day for like a few weeks almost because it's just, or not a day, but like each time I played it,
Yeah.
because it is so pick up and play because of how they designed it, which is I think a unique thing to the era where we had like games that were only for console and games that were only for handheld, and them thinking about that when they made it.
Yeah, I thought it was extremely playable. And I'll just say this game is a total blind spot for me. I said I maybe know the stories. Like now I barely remember, obviously, but the first three I kind of knew. Um, this one I maybe read the description that Kratos had a brother and stopped there. Like otherwise, I knew nothing about this. I've never had a PSP or played a PSP game before, so I thought it might just look like a original Nintendo DS game level of quality or something. And the fact that I was able to blow it up on my screen, I thought it was great. I also thought I'm not trying to just constantly throw Ragnarok under the bus, but this game for me was like pure spectacle. And I loved how it starts on the boat. You're in the monster, you go to the island, you break the thing, the mountain explodes. It's just like boom, boom. It's like Michael Bay in Olympus territory. I loved it.
Yeah, Charlie, that was something that you were, I think it was you, Charlie, who was sort of uh, teeing up for us earlier, which is the spectacle. And I kept having this thought while I was playing it, again, full game just on this little console. And which most of my playthrough, I will say, was on airplanes, actually. I did some playing on like a couch in an Airbnb we were staying at over the last couple months on like a little trip here and there. But I felt so cool just and probably looked really lame pulling this out of my backpack and plugging in little earbud headphones to just play a PSP in the year 2026 on a flight. But I kept having this thought over and over, which I think a few of us have kind of voiced today, which is it's so cool that they were able to make this work on this console specifically. I don't want it to sound like an insult either. Like, oh, it's cool. Like I was trying to come up with a comparison earlier of a comparison point that would make sense for this, but just the fact my expectations were kind of blown away considering some of the spectacle, both from cutscenes, QuickTime sequences, and some battles in this game. I was very impressed by. You can see, to Janet's point too, you can see not necessarily, I wouldn't maybe say where corners are cut, but where they make it work. And you can see the seams in places. But I think being my first experience with this type of game or this this era of God of War made it all the better. And I had like no comparison point really.
Well, and I'll say that the final boss fight in this game is the only boss fight in the original, like the non PS4 era, that features a two-hander. Like the fact that like you pick up Demos, hand him the Spartan arms, and then you're like able to basically call in volleys.
And then I was like, this is just 2018. I was like, so they
Yeah.
made 2018. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Made the
You're basically
blueprint for
doing like
2018, which is
Atreus
crazy.
type stuff. Is like you're hitting everyone with it, and it's like very cool. Like it feels like in if anyone's played Arkham Knight, there's like these levels where you're fighting with both Catwoman and Batman, and every like 10 hit combo you get, you can do a dual takedown. And so like you're getting, but in this you have like Thanatos like trying to kill you, and then Demos throws the thing, you grab his sword, stab him, and then in that final moment, just for pure spectacle's sake, they have you go like Super Saiyan and just get like so angry and then just like completely obliterate him. I was like, I just kept finding myself being like, you know, like they didn't have to go this hard on this game. There's that one scene where you're kicking dogs into the gears to break the gears of that thing.
Yeah.
And it's like they came up with like creative gameplay things that I thought were really cool. That boss fight against Thanatos' daughter is great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like there's some like very very cool. The things like visual eye candy, like the mountain where you're like going and you're just seeing like the mountain, like the snowy mountain, and like the scale of that. All the Atlantis stuff, especially where you have to get all of the statues to move their thing, and then you're standing there and you're seeing just this water cascading down over the thing, and I'm like, this is a PSP. Like, you know,
Yeah.
like it's crazy that they were able to pull this off, because like if you've seen other PSP games, they're fine. Like they look fine. There is no other PSP game that looks like this.
Even just Kratos himself looks great.
Yeah.
I love the detail on him in the cutscenes. This is my first game fully played with his original voice actor. That guy is great. No
Yeah.
notes on him.
Oh, I love how he's just angry nonstop.
Yeah.
This is also the only game in the series, I think, that, you know, of the older series, and Janet, you can correct me, where you're able to do the like where you hold L and circle and you tackle the person and you just like pound them on the ground. The other ones don't have that particular mechanic. They have all the throwing and all that other stuff, and a lot of the moves are, but that I think is unique to this game. And that was just so fun because it felt like you were like just a brawler where you were just able to use different techniques at any given point in time. And I loved tackling a guy to a ground and just like beating on him and then just tearing him in half as you throw half of his body away. I was like,
Yeah.
awesome.
There's so much. Janet, were you about to say something?
Oh, I was just gonna add to the
Yeah.
dogs thing was real. I mean, this is like messed up to say, but like it was quite funny. But it's also one of those things where I'm like, this could only have happened at this time on the PSP because it's small enough that it's like they are dogs, but you don't like feel bad for them.
They're bad
Like,
dogs. They're bad.
and they are bad dogs, but they weren't like as, I don't know. I think the fact that he really just like kicks the hell out of them is where it adds the, because versus, you know, we think of other like evil dogs in games, like the Resident Evil dogs are like the notorious ones. And it's like, you don't really feel bad about that. But something
Or in
about
Last
like,
of Us 2, you're supposed to feel awful. You know,
yeah,
like,
it's like
you do.
you could not, with the resolution and the technology you have, like Sony Santa Monica could not have Kratos kicking dogs the way he used to. And it's so funny and so specific. But like to the note of like the spectacle, I think the thing that impressed me a lot about this game and that I wish they did kind of more of. This is also the classic. I think in a way it's like like stronger in the beginning to some degree, but then my brother has this saying of like for playing music, it's how you start and how you end. And I think video games are very similar to that. So it's like the ending's nice, the beginning's nice, the middle, it wasn't bad, but I do think some of the stronger points are like the beginning, like specifically when you're fighting, like I think it might be the first Minotaur fight you do, and then like partway through it, Scylla, like the sort of sea monster like comes through the wall. Like that was so surprising, and I really liked that moment a lot, and that was like a big highlight for me early on, where like in those opening, it's not a long game, it's like a 6 to 8 hour kind of experience, but in that first like 30, 45 minutes, an hour, I'm like, man, this rocks. And then a little bit late, I had hit a couple tough points for like a difficulty and arena design a little bit. Ultimately, I still was quite favorable on the game, but I definitely want to get into later on some of the elements of how they're constructed, because I'm like, so I see you always repeat enemies a little too often. This has been a problem to student.
Let me jump on the good real quick, though. I think I agree. I was just consistently wowed, and it wasn't just the visual; it was the story too. I felt like I judged the game too harshly when I was fighting alongside Demos by the end, because I thought for sure I'm going to be fighting this guy. All the setup, I just thought he must be the bad guy because I've never heard of this character before. And the way they did that was nice. And even that last moment, it kind of mirrors the 2018 God of War, like slowly carrying the body up
oh yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
And
the dogs. Oh yeah, go.
Yeah, Janet, I 100% agree. Enemy variety is this game's weakest. It really doesn't have a ton of different enemies, and it does repeat them. And eventually, what you get are like gauntlets, where it's just like sending them at you over and over again. So I 100% agree there. This probably has to do with the size of a UMD, and them being like, it's a lot easier for us to just repeat this over and over again than build something new and store it. But I have to say, like, the midpoint to the end, to me, is what I think is like the strongest from a visual standpoint. Like, I'm thinking about right around the midpoint where you get a bunch of Spartans and you get on that boat and there's a storm happening as you're going towards Olympus, and like there's a vortex happening and you're being attacked from all sides by enemies, and your men are fighting, you're kind of just like causing collateral damage, and then you eventually just get like sucked into the vortex. I was like blown away by that. All the stuff, like I said, the mountain, the volcano, all of that is really, really cool. I also, but my one part where I was so frustrated by the game and I had to repeat it over and over again was one specific QuickTime event in which you are underwater and the walls are closing in.
Oh, okay,
and you have to swim through and then spin your stick as fast as you can to reel yourself in, and there is just not enough time to do both. It is like, it took me maybe like 8 tries, but each time it's like, you are dead, retry checkpoint, it's gonna load. I was just like, and so eventually, as soon as I got through since I was emulating, I was like, save state. It's like, I'm never going back and doing that again.
I found
go ahead,
some of those QuickTime events were punishing. That's all.
Oh, sure.
You don't have enough time, I think.
Yeah.
And
No,
them putting them on the 4 sides of the screen, I think is like, it's kind of annoying because it's like,
no. I go the opposite. Like, because it showed, like, what I learned is you're not supposed to read them. You're supposed to see what side they're on and just like press it. Like,
so you're thinking like left, up, down, right, not necessarily square, circle.
Yeah, you can't think square.
Yeah.
Like, which it took me way too long to realize that. Which, like, to this game's credit, because there's a couple things about it that I do find like annoying and not super fun. Like, specifically, not even just the lack of enemy variety, but specifically when they do the thing where it's like, okay, you have a gauntlet. Like, most of the room, the game design construction, like for people who haven't like played it, is you like enter a space, the sort of like barriers go up, and then you're in an arena fight, and then you kind of move on. In between that, there's like puzzles or traversal. That's basically the construction of the entire game. Is you'll have like, they kept doing that thing where I'm like, I'm so tired of you doing this, because it just takes a lot of time, and it's like, I know I can do it, and it's just, I'm a little over it, where it'll be like, okay, you're fighting a Cyclops and some other guys, like little guys. Okay, now you got a second Cyclops, and then you kill both of those, and they're like, surprise, a third Cyclops, and I'm like, stop. Like, I already used all my magic. This is like such a slog to like get through, but I think a lot of that ends up easing up for 2 reasons. One, as you spec into your abilities, you just become more powerful, so then it's like, cool, I know I'm gonna be hitting the fire a lot, let's like max that out. I use the I forget what it's called, it's like the freezy, it's like the blue, like the lightning.
Where you shoot
oh
it.
yeah.
kind
That's
Oh
of.
what-
yeah. It's
this-
the eye of something.
Yes, the eye of whatever God has the lightning.
I'll
I
find it
don't
for
remember.
us.
I
Thank
used
you.
the void all the time. I loved the
See,
void.
the void came too late for me. I was like, we already have our build. Like, but
Eye of
it was
Atlantis.
cool. Yes.
I have Atlantis.
And I think the game does it's one of those weird things where like when a game is designed in a way that's like a little annoying, sometimes you just have to like learn your way through it. And as much as I think like the timing for the QTEs is insane and the dodge windows are like so small, and also they're like, hey, are you stuck in the corner? F you, you're stun locked.
Yeah.
You're stun locked. I like got really good at being like, okay, I have to just really tune in then to what information am I given? And like there's that enemy, I don't know if anyone knows the name or could look it up, but where it's at the guy with like a big brick and it's like electricity.
And he
like
disappears and slams
he
it.
disappears and
That
then
guy.
appears and slams down with a bunch of electricity. And the gap between him disappearing and him hitting you feels like imperceivable. And I just had to learn that like the second I see him go, I dodge. Okay, just hope that you like kind of get in that perfect like pocket. So like the
That's what I
QTEs
did.
became that for me as well, where it's like, okay, these are like really like not only are they fast, but they're very petty about them. Like you miss a QTE, they're like you have to re-stun that enemy.
Yeah.
back. You can't just
or
redo
go through
it.
a whole combo, and it's like, I'm sorry,
Exactly.
it said triangle, I pressed it, but it meant square.
You're supposed to sense the sides of the screen. Like at the very end, like the last like 5, 10, 15 minutes I was playing, I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is how I'm supposed to play. And they're really smart for laying it out this way. But I just was in such the habit of like looking at it and being like, okay, square, I hit square. But it's already over. You gotta
Yeah,
just go to the
and
sides.
I'm playing on something that's a YXAB because it's a Retroid. It doesn't
Oh,
have
boy.
that. It doesn't have. So there was a
But
little
in the
bit of
space will work
cognitive.
even better.
Yeah,
with that,
I do get what you're saying. I think also on my TV, I was like, it's just too far to look.
It is farther apart. Yeah. That part's fair.
I also like, I think what this game does do really well, and I think God of War in general does this, especially in these more hack and slashy ones, is they're really good at a very satisfying feedback loop in the sense of like, yes, it can be in combat encounters can be so frustrating and they love to just spam enemies at you, but every enemy reacts to your weapons in a way that like I was so satisfied knocking the armor off of the armored cyclopses with the like, and the fact that they would just like shake and stuff would break off. I loved those guys with the automatons with the little clockwork the
like that a lot,
cogs
too.
Oh yeah, I love just like swinging that thing around and hitting him in the head with it. I love just the geyser of blood when you stab into a minotaur's mouth or into the like there's so much like this was from a time in which like gore was kind of king in games like this, but it also was like you felt like you're like, oh, I am this powerful and I am so angry and I am just like laying waste to everything. And I do think it really adds to the experience.
I agree. I fully agree. I'll say someone used the word mindless for gameplay, I think, but I feel like this is like mindless edginess. It's almost inoffensive in that you just kind of expect it to be offensive at every turn. So like the dogs thing, I laughed a lot when I realized that's what I was supposed to be doing, throwing the dogs in the gears. But I had already done earlier moments
tearing the
where-
wings off the birds and like slamming them on the ground and stepping on them and pulling their wings off and like killing them. I was like,
violence of it.
even
Yeah.
just running by your own soldiers and he's like swinging and
Yeah.
killing them, and it's incidental. It doesn't matter.
It's why I'm so like it's why people are so excited for the new Wolverine game, because if you have a guy with claws and he's swinging them around and you just have them react as though they have been hit by a punch, then like you're kind of like, oh well, why does he even have the claws? It's the
Yes.
same thing with like swords sometimes, where it's like they just react, where it's like, oh, okay, but like if you have something like that and it reacts to it, then it's like, oh, I'm playing as Logan. Like when you think about the movie Logan, the brutality of that really adds to the experience, because you're like, oh, this is a force to be reckoned with, rather than this is a martial arts movie or something.
If I'm playing Wolverine, I want to be Wolverine.
Exactly.
I want to cut people's arms and legs off with my knives. And we just did the Arkham Games Club over on Super NPC Radio. And
great plug,
thank you. We talked about how Batman is such a good archetypal character where he's kind of the power fantasy of like, yeah, I'm the best detective, but I can also beat everybody up too.
Yeah.
And Kratos is very much that. It's like, yeah, I'm immortal, I'm a god, but I'm so good at being a god, I could kill all the other gods.
I felt for me, I ended up, I think the combat was probably my favorite aspect of the game, despite having similar critiques that we've shared of getting spammed by an enemy, too many enemies in an area, but also how long the encounters could take when I felt like I could be fully in control, really like grooving in combat. And it wasn't a challenge of difficulty. It was a challenge of just like, how long do I have to last to get through this?
And
they're
damage sponges too.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really could be. I will say though, I had a couple things I wanted to share about my particular experience being new to the series in this game, was that it took me so long to realize that I had started this game on one flight. I picked it up at the end of a weekend going back. I hadn't interacted with the upgrade system yet, so I kind of forgot that was even an option. So I truly don't think I upgraded anything until a third of the way through my game, but then I had all these red orbs to like do that. And so then I felt really powerful afterwards, having kind of just essentially a level jump.
You were probably like really good at the game too, because you had been like inherently playing more of it by having that kind of added time.
Yeah.
Charlie, you had mentioned like the thing that you got caught like stuck on was the just going through the little like spiky part and then whatever. My one part that it's like I hadn't died in the game until this part where I'm like, okay, it's pretty breezy. And God of War in general, like as a franchise, is not generally a hard game. Like there are sometimes moments that are challenging, but it's not really known for its difficulty. It's like it's kind of just like for funsies, you know? So I'm like, oh yeah, it's fun, like la la la. And then I got to the thing that I kept getting stuck on where I had to like look it up because I'm like, am I missing something? And they're like, no, you're simply just not fast enough. Is that you fight like it's just like a general like arena battle. There's a Minotaur and like other enemies, but it's like you have to do it before the ceiling caves in.
Oh yeah.
And you have to open the door. And I was fighting for my life in that moment. I don't know if it's that I didn't upgrade the right thing at the right time, but like I just could not get past that point. And then eventually I just kind of had to like, I guess I just have to play better. And then I eventually got through it. And that was probably the hardest thing I did. And everything else after that kind of felt a little easier. But part of me had like a very tiny fear that I'd experience that again. And I'm like, go like with the boss battle with Thanatos' daughter, Erin's. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. That one I had to do twice. And I was like,
same.
This feels pretty challenging. And I was very relieved when I like got through it after the second bit. And it's also a game where as much as the hard save checkpoints are very frequent and the heals are also very regular, like outside of encounters. And even in encounters, you can gain like health through enemies. The one thing you can't really gain is magic back very easily. So that part's like pretty chill. But the thing that is a little inconsistent is if you die beyond that, like where you end up. So like in that battle, like I missed the QT like afterwards, and I was like, if I have to do this whole fight over again, I'm gonna kill myself in real life. And then I was like, okay, we live another day. They put me back on because I like missed the circle after you hit the X from the slide. I was like, I swear to God. So every now and then there's like a funky respawn part if you do die like in a I don't know, if you die like in traversal especially, they're like, oh, you got to go back to like an arena, but that happens so infrequently that's not a big ding, but it is a kind of a weird thing lording over me.
The game also like gives you like stuff to do just for free. Like like when you're fighting errands and you like end up on her back and you're just able to just like hack away at her, and I that's all in there just for cinema. Like it's in there just to be cinematic, and like like you could press nothing and it probably wouldn't change the outcome of that, but it's like there for you to do it. The same thing with like fighting Demos when you're young, which actually probably feels the most like the new God of War
Sons of Sparta?
Metrovania. Yeah, where it's like you're fighting with the spears and you're and doing that. But then when the fight at the end, where a lot of it is just you tackling him, punching him throwing the sand in your eyes, like all stuff that you just never see in the rest of the series, including going to Sparta. There is never, I don't think in any other like God of War game. 3 has a couple moments where like similarly where you're like beat up and you're moving really slow and like, you know, you have to like walk really slow, but they never like put you in a place and just have you walk slowly around and like let you see slice of life. Anytime you were in any other environment in the God of War series before you get to God of War 2018, everything is falling apart and everyone is dying. Like, and you are the cause of it. And this is the first time that you go in and you're just like, oh, I'm just like home. And like, people are excited to see me as the general, like, you know.
It is personal in a good way and a stepping stone way for what was to come. I think I really liked, there's a particular moment. I like when Deimos is like, you're the problem. You did this to me. And I thought that was a great break from Kratos being able to blame literally everything on the gods.
Yeah.
He actually did do something wrong. And that was kind of nice.
Was it that my perception of that scene was that Deimos was just mad that he didn't protect him?
Yes, that
from
was
them?
it. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And
because the reason why they took Deimos away is because Kratos was fated to like kill Ares and like become the God of War. So it was like Kratos has to stay because he has a destiny that he has to fulfill. But Deimos is like, he spells like doom for us or something.
I think he said he's a threat to Olympus.
He's a threat to Olympus. Like so basically,
Did they think that Deimos was who Kratos ended up becoming? Was that the idea?
That might have been it too.
But
that doesn't
I don't
make
think
any
so
sense.
because I think they like know everything. You know, it's kind of the thing. Like,
and Kratos is the stronger of the two anyway.
I will.
I thought it
admit
was
that,
cool how the scar thing though.
Yeah.
Connection of
That was
him
cool.
getting the scar after, and then it's like, oh, the one with the scar, and then it's like, well, here's the second kid with the scar. I want to kill him too. And they're like, nah, you can leave him. Just let him go.
There was some lore stuff that did confuse me at the very end. Kratos walks through the door and Athena's alone, and she says, "Sorry, brother." I was like, "What?"
Because he is Zeus's son.
Oh my gosh!
I
should
find
know that.
out. Yeah, you do find that out. That is, and so like, and Athena is also the daughter of Zeus. So like they are siblings on that side, whereas Deimos is on the more human demigod side. Yeah,
makes sense.
And we're talking a little bit around story here, so I'll say that I feel like the story is. The pacing is pretty decent. I think, like a lot of the game, I also personally thought it slowed down a bit in the middle, but I still was really engaged and having fun and almost couldn't put the game down. But the pacing in general was great, and I think the story was nice, simple, and straightforward, and effective for what it was trying to do. At least I personally thought.
I would say, yeah, I 100% agree. Like the big difference between 1, 2. And even like three finally, and they came out, I believe, the same year. They're both 2010 games.
I think you're right.
Yeah, they came out the same year, and they both happened to have a like Kratos by the end of God of War 3, because the big thing is that you are essentially like tasked with saving Pandora while you are killing all of the other things like that. And Kratos, with every god he kills, more calamity befalls the world. The seas flood, the volcanoes explode. Like it is basically he's bringing about almost the end of the world. And Pandora is like the person who tempers his anger. And at the end, he sacrifices himself. And that's why you think he's dead. And he goes and hides out you find out he went and hid out in Norseland, but and then hope is the one thing that he leaves because that's what was left in Pandora's box when the box was open. And so he, you know, like Kratos actually does something noble, whereas in God of War 1 and 2, he is the most immoral person in the entire world. He sold his soul in order to win a battle, and it drove him so mad he killed his entire family.
He has sex outside of marriage. We all know that's wrong.
Yes. But he you see it like so many puzzles in this game and in 2 and in 3 and in all of them require him to just like sacrifice innocent people and like shove them into the gears of like, and you're just, when you're in Atlantis, you just like grab random people and you just get health from them by tearing them in half. And so he is just like a bloodlust person. And so to have even just the moments of softness where he seems to care about literally anyone other than himself, I actually thought was a really nice touch for these games that did not have a soft touch about literally anything.
And to the actor point, we don't get to hear him do too much like sad emotional stuff. He's so good at making every line Kratos says angry. Yeah, that's always the emotion. It's always perfect.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that wonders what it would be like to hear his take on the newer ones. How he would play it.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just yelling Athena because I did that as I was playing because I feel something about how not even how angry he is, because it's not like it's done up, it's not overacted, but I think his inflection and it's so weird. Maybe it's just having played so many of the other games, like the older games, and thinking about like who Kratos is as a character and like, how he is, and how it's like, you know, like playing this game for some reason, I'm like, you know, he's always mad because like the gods are jerking him around, but at a certain point, you ain't figured this out yet? Come on, Kratos. And then it's kind of just like I don't know. It ends up being this like, the game is a little funny if you zoom out of the game. Obviously, in the game, it's like very serious, but like I'm like, Athena, I'm like, oh, Kratos. Like it becomes a sitcom for me almost.
Brother!
Like, exactly.
Brother!
But I agree with you, Charlie. Like I think there's a lot more. Like you see, like 2018 Ragnarok gets, you know, rightfully praised for them adding more dimension to Kratos, and I think they did. But this is one of the first times that I feel like, not the first times, but one of the few glimpses of more dimension to his character that you get, and it's also just a reminder of what his like real motivations are and how they often are about like the loved ones he has in his life or had in his life, and how that's always been true like throughout the franchise, and that it's just like a family story in a lot of ways, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I quite like the story as well. It is simple. It is more of like a plot-based story. But I think what works for me is just that, like, I think it's almost just the mythology angle. Like, it kind of just gives you enough to be intrigued by it, which is, you could say about all of God of War games. But the cutscenes were just, like, interesting. Like, cool stuff happened in them. It was fun to know the places. And it's very, like, sort of ham-fisted, but I quite like that you could walk to an area and then click on something and they're like, here's a bunch of text about the area, continue, more lore, and it's like, it's very just like, you just threw it in there, but it worked. Like,
Kratos
I
stood on the top of Olympus.
Yes.
The gods will pay. That woman's voice is so good. It's really good. She's in all of the she's in all of the earlier games, and she does all of the lore drops. And it's Athena, and like older Athena, looking back on it, but. It's you know, the 2018 God of War is like, I compare it often to this movie called Unforgiven with Clint Eastwood from 1990 about a bad man, a gunslinger, a murderer who marries a woman, and she basically tames him. She calms him down, gives him something to live for, and he becomes essentially like a ranch hand. And she passes away, which like completely and totally breaks his heart. And then he learns that some women in town are being terrorized by the guy who owns the brothel, Gene Hackman, and he is forced to go back to his old ways. And it's like the only person that can take down a bad man is a bad man. And that's what I felt like God of War was really focusing on. Like, I loved the fact that he is like, you can tell he's always simmering, like the fact that he's like constantly trying not to lose his cool as Atreus. And like all that quiet rage is boiling beneath the surface. And then when it comes out, you know it's specifically because he's been forced to return to like what he thought he had left behind, and like the grief that he is experiencing at the loss of Faye, which is why God of War Laufey makes so much sense, because you were told in both of those games over and over again that she is stronger than him. Yeah. Like she taught him she made his axe. She taught him or worked with, what's his name? Brock, to make the axe. But like she is a giantess, and she is like able to keep up with him. So the idea that this is somehow out of thin air, I think makes perfect sense. But I love that progression for the character, because when he hides out, rather than them just dropping you in and being like, you're going to do the same thing you did in the old games, and he's just as pissed off, but now it's Vikings and like, it's Norse stuff.
Yeah.
I love the fact that it's like how he was trying to get away. Just when I think they're out, they pull me back in, like Godfather 3 type
It's
stuff.
Great. You have these two like different sections of his life, and in the first half he was angry all the time, he was rage filled. It was about his wife and kids dying, well, we won't mention who did that, but you have the
reason why he kills Ares in the first game is because Ares made him do that. And so he's like, that is why he's like, I'm going to kill the God of War, because the God of War like betrayed me. I asked for a little bit of power, but he used me as a means to an end and then had me kill my family. So I'm going to kill him. So he is absolving himself of some blame for it.
And he's white because it's the ashes of his family bonded to his skin.
And everyone that he has killed. Yeah.
Pretty grim stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's you have these very tiny incremental moments of emotional growth. Sounds like the sacrifice at the end of 3 and kind of this Demos stuff, and seems like that's mostly it.
Yeah.
But you have a real life gap between games and a big time skip in the chronology of the story. And when he comes back, he really does feel like he's changed. And that first 2018 game worked so well in isolation, but if you play that as the coda to these, and you have that moment where he goes up the mountain at the end and he actually lets it go, he's able to like let go of his grief in a non-angry way. It's very beautiful.
Yeah, I love that moment is so quiet, where he just steps up at the top and just drops the ashes, and then that's it. I also think there's like a really great, I know we're talking about God of War 2018 now, but I think there's a great moment in there where Atreus kills one of the twins, and Kratos has that oh shit moment where he realizes like he's me. And everything that I tried to do to protect him from who I was, like he's becoming that. I love that. And in this, I think you get some of that in like one of the moments that we haven't talked about yet in this game is when he kills his own mom because she has been turned into a beast. And he experiences like what seems to be genuine grief at her loss. And at the end, you see that she is buried alongside Demos. And then you know that because that year, the same year God of War 3 came out and Kratos dies at the end of it, that the idea is supposed to be all we need is one more. And that will be Kratos, who's buried in the land of the dead right now.
Was that supposed to be Zeus?
No, that was he's just a gravedigger.
He really is just
simply
a
is a guy.
Yeah, he's a part of Greek mythology. He's like the guy who he's someone who he's not the like Charon who like ferries the dead or whatever, but he's someone like that.
He's in Hades.
I want to do some zooming in really quick because we're at about an hour and 20 right now. So I want to set aside a couple moments to talk about elements we haven't discussed or just favorite aspects of the game. It could be something as small as combat or the way something's presented. I'll kick this off by actually, I want to ask you guys about some combat specific stuff. Did you develop throughout the game go-tos or strategies for when you were getting in these combat arenas? Because that was some of the most fun I had, was leaning on new abilities and embracing ways I wasn't playing before. Janet, I kind of saw you shaking your head yes, I think.
Yeah, I had a pretty strict formula that I went through. One thing I wish is that like the combos were a little more surface because they tell you when you get them and they're like, you don't need to see these again. And I'm like, dude, I wish I could look back at
I
this.
kept having to
But
look them up.
I just said, I know what I know and it's gonna get me where I need to go. But I would go in and I would hit with fire until it ran out. I spec'd into fire pretty much. That was like the first thing I did because I could tell and was correct in that the game would present you with things where it's like you need to use the fire, like to get like, the armor off of enemies and other kind of things. And I was wondering in my head, I'm like, will they have like the same thing but with the other like magic abilities that you have? And they never did. And I was like, great, because I didn't spec in a lot of those. So I was like, okay, we're good. So I would hit the fire until it ran out. Then I would like use, God, you guys told me what it was called. The
Eye of
lightning
Atlantis?
beam? The Eye of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd use the Eye of Atlantis basically until it ran out. It took me a few arenas to accept that like you kind of need not need to, but you should be spamming magic because they will give you enough magic crates that like there's no reason not to use magic in almost every encounter.
Yeah.
Like when it's a smaller arena, I would just like kind of just fight it regular, but if it was like a bigger one, you can kind of just tell based on scale. Yeah, I'd hit fire, I'd spam the Eye of Atlantis until it ran out. And then if they were like the winged enemies, like the harpies, I would always run up to those and hit circle to pull them down. I never fought them with my blades because other than by accident, if they were too
Yes.
far away, I would do that. I'm always hitting Cyclone. It's funny because we keep going into like the modern games, but when like the Cyclone ability came up in that game, I said, Cyclone, you're back. Love you. I've always loved
I
that move.
love Cyclone.
I think it's like the best move if you don't want to actually think about anything because you whip it and you hit a lot of people at once. It has great range. I was really into that. And then that was kind of basically it. I mean,
Yeah.
I would hit the when you upgrade like the blades, you do eventually get like hold L and hit triangle and you do kind of like the spiral move. I'd hit that sometimes. I'd hit that in square, but that was pretty much what the formula was. And the other thing I also like, it took me a while to realize, but some enemies do drop health and magic. So that was even more incentive to like, let's spam some magic early because I can replenish magic in a way that I can't the heat, the fire auto replenishes.
Yes.
So like that was kind of pretty much my go-to formula and it worked great for pretty much everything because I would run out of magic by the time like the third Cyclops appeared, but also the third Cyclops was always in isolation. So I was like,
Yes.
okay, cool. I kind of know how the game is structured. I know what kind of things to expect. Yeah, it served me pretty well. The hardest enemies for me, which I'm curious for y'all, what your hardest enemy was. Mine was the ones that like sort of like will hold you down and then like jump you. It's like they sort of
Yes.
spawn and then because they kind of have a couple different mechanical things happening to the like with them. Like they're more mechanically complex to me than the other enemies. So those I found really difficult. I kind of just took the L on those. Like I just knew that like I'm gonna take a good amount of damage from these and let me just try
Killing
to kill
them
as
was
quickly as
so
possible.
satisfying
Yes.
because you don't have to do a quick time event. You just hit the
Yes.
circle and it
They
just
must
pins
have
them
known.
down and stabs them in the back. And it's
And
like
you always
you're
get
like,
health from those
yeah,
too.
you're like, I hate you so much.
I think they knew that was one of like the more challenging
Yeah.
enemies they designed. But yeah, what was everyone else's like go-to combo kind of flowed?
Well, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, this game has a very strong parry mechanic that allow like the hit that you do right after a parry is incredibly powerful and a lot of times can stun an enemy right off. And so I would sometimes slow down a bit and try to get a good parry off because it also is an area of effect attack. So it would hit, several enemies at once to at least do some crowd control. Cyclone, of course. Fire, I was just basically holding R the entire time, using it, letting it come down, and then letting it build back up. It looks great. It also, like, if it's fully powered up, it leaves like a grenade on them and it explodes after a little bit. And so like that does a lot of damage.
Took me a while to realize it did that until I was like, why are enemies dying when I'm not hitting them? And that's why.
It stuns them. So yeah, I would do that a lot. The Spartan arms, if those are fully powered up, you can do where you fire your spear into the air and it rains. That's like a rain of fire onto them.
Whoa.
There's another one where if you hold it and you hold L and or you hold the R and triangle, it basically like launches it like it's a ballistic missile. It just goes straight up into the air and straight down and explodes.
It's funny they put all this time setting up how drop near can like do its special ability, and this is kind of like it can just do whatever.
Yeah.
It's like missiles.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
awesome.
Yeah, and like the fact that you really get it like maybe 2/3 of the way through the game, so you're really not using the Spartan arms for all that long.
Yeah, it felt context specific oftentimes. Otherwise, I'd lean on the blades.
I loved the scenes where you had to pull out the shield and walk forward, and there would be like guys shooting at you, or the fire one where you have to move the bridge, and you have to. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, use the shield for like what it's there for, and use it for just like a essentially like a cinematic.
It kind of locks into
moment.
the primal 300 style.
Yes. Well, and in God of War 3, you didn't get that. Well, you need to go back and play it, but you get the they call it the Spartan Army, and it's one of your magic moves, and basically 30 Spartans drop onto you as a shield wall,
Right.
and then they just press out with their arrows, and it just like wipes out any enemy in your surrounding area. It's really cool.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.
Nick,
Yeah.
did you have some go-tos before I share mine?
Yeah, well, my go-to came from my most difficult enemy encounter.
Oh,
I
it
had
caused you
one
to
of
change, did it?
It did. Yeah, I had one of those bad reload moments where I kept respawning with low health right before the guy that holds up the boulder.
Oh,
And I was too far from my save state in the other direction. So I just had to keep respawning, but I couldn't find any health. And I realized I hadn't upgraded anything. And I had all these points. And I just put it all on Thera's Bane. Is that the fire? And I just kept using fire and magic, and that was it. I think all of the moves that Kratos can do with the blades just look awesome. And if they're on fire, they look twice as cool.
there's almost I felt kind of like there was an embarrassment of riches of abilities in this game and moves you could go to. Like Janet was saying, they did be introduced to me and I'd forget how to do most of the combos. And then I'd have moments where I would accidentally press, like, for example, like L and triangle and do that sort of like spinning forward heavy attack. And I would be reminded of it. And that was always so exciting because it added something to my little arsenal. And I really, despite having some critique for how these arenas were designed and mostly how a lot of them are, as we've already said a few times, they're just a bunch of enemies that are a heavy amount of enemies thrown at you is the challenge. I did feel like that I was using different abilities in different situations constantly in order to solve essentially what felt like a combat puzzle. I liked that. I liked how when the Medusas would show up, I'm going for them first because if I don't take them out, they're going to just ruin this whole battle for me. I really enjoyed that. And then I think one other thing last thing I wanted to say about my personal combat experience was at the beginning of the game, I felt like I kept having trouble using the heavier attack because it's slower, which is by design. But as the game went on, I got more used to and skilled at the timing of when enemies approach you, when to start using your attacks. So then I was actually leading with the heavy triangle attack. And that got to be really fun when you are just smashing the ground with the blades and they are popping up in the air. And I want to piggyback up on Janet, your experience of just grabbing the birds over and over. anytime I saw enemies like that, and you know there's a few different kinds in this game that we all probably recognize at this point, where I could essentially cheese the game by grabbing them because it puts you in that animation where it's one of the few times you can't get hurt while you're attacking something. Oh, I had no problem just running immediately up to someone, grabbing, doing the grab move, and having that little encounter be over. It
It's really
was,
fun.
yeah,
It's just fun to grab each different enemy and get a new animation.
yes.
I also liked the skeletons. I thought that was a fun enemy. Like that, the fact
Yeah.
that they and like when you would grab them by the leg, and then if like the last one, it's just like smash their bones, and then that's how you knew they were finally dead. The Medusas are also great in the sense that they're essentially like a free power up. Where if you do the quick time event on them, and you pull their head off, it turns every enemy in the arena to stone, and then you just go around and hit them as quick as possible to shatter them, which is great. Yeah.
I don't know if I noticed that. I do like using them though to like freeze each other. It's a little hard to pull off.
Yeah.
But like having them freeze each other, having them freeze their enemies.
Yeah, when
is
you
really
yank
fun.
their heads off using the quick time event, she like her head like explodes and turns everyone to stone.
I also really liked something I would always do in these games, and I feel like is specific to how older God of War is designed. When you like hit circle, you can get an enemy like aerial, and then you hit it again, and you like pull their body down, and then you hit it again, and you just keep. And that's another one where like the animation is such that the other enemies don't really like go for you as much. It's like something about like. I don't know. That's very common in games.
They also
where it's
think
like
it looks cool.
You're doing something, and then everyone kind of is like conveniently not attacking. So yeah, doing that. It's funny because it takes so much longer than just fighting them regularly, but it's just more fun. So it's a great game for that, and I've always enjoyed how like you can obviously play this more seriously and like really know your combos and be very intentional about things. But I love this franchise for if you know like one or two things, you're kind of fine. And also all of the combos are the same combo. It's like hold L and hit square. Hold L and hit square, then square again. It's like you're probably going to naturally do that anyway. So you don't really, as much as I wish they did like leave those surface more easily, like in the main menu, you don't really need much other than like two ideas in your head because they're all mapped to the same button. So, you know, a little goes a long way.
I think a lot
roll away.
Yeah.
I think a lot of games have like like narrative dissonance when it comes to combat or whatever it is, but I don't think God of War does, in the sense that like Kratos doesn't seem like the type of person that would ever go through a fight concerned about getting scathed. Like he feels like someone who does not give a shit, and it's all just ballistic, pure, like, berserker barrage type stuff. Like he is like just fully going in and creating as much destruction as possible, whether or not it takes him down or not, because he also like does, the only reason he's trying to stay alive is to accomplish his goal, and that's it. Otherwise, he doesn't care. He'll take anything. So getting hit in combat encounters and stuff like that is not anything that I've ever worried about in these. Like, you do want to avoid dying and running out of health, but this is not like a Souls or even like a Platinum game, in the sense that like pulling off something stylish requires you to have a great deal of finesse. This game makes it very easy to be very stylish with it mindlessly.
Yeah.
I just had one moment where I was like, oh, I need to lock in that much more. And it was when the ice harpies showed up.
Oh, yeah.
It froze me, and I didn't do my time to get out.
You got shattered?
Insta shattered. I was like, whoa, I can't believe I just died.
I want to turn us all towards a sort of like last opportunity to share a detail, maybe like zoom again, like I was setting us up a little earlier, but for like a zoom in on like a little thing in the game, not quite closing thoughts, but like one more share if you'd like. I'll lead off with this really quick. Something I really liked, moments that I was just pleased as punch to see every time in this game, would be when you would be approaching usually a new area, and the camera, it was mostly a spectacle and a perspective thing. The camera really zooms out, and you keep walking, but you see your little Kratos get tinier and tinier as he enters an area. And I'm sure they're just doing like a little loading screen trick there. But I just loved every one of those. I think approaching Sparta, you have a particularly cool one. And maybe even as you're in Atlantis, but just a little detail in this game that I loved every time.
I felt bad killing King Midas because he's an old man. He's frail. But I also really liked what they did with that, where I don't know if y'all encountered this, but I was kind of taking a little too long doing it, and I messed up one of the QTEs for him. And when you mess it up, he turns you to gold and you're just
Yeah.
dead. And I
I
was
think it
like,
happened to me.
oh, this is like really serious. And I feel like those moments are really fun in that, like, to me, that's a perfect example of it fits the lore, it fits like the mythos of the world. It's not actually that hard to get through, so it's not gonna like be a pain in the ass for the player, but it also adds some stakes to something in a really fun way because he does seem like, pathetic. You know, you see
Yeah.
him and he's skin and bones and he's desperate and he's fleeing and he's just the shell of a person,
Mhm.
but he can still kill you with one touch.
Yeah.
So, and then for some reason the dogs are there, which is like, I don't know why. Obviously they want to like add some form of friction where he's crawling back, and that's kind of like a little fun
The
element of
tigers. They're
interactivity.
tigers this time.
Oh, okay. And look, on the PSP, they're all
Yeah.
dogs to me. That little screen.
It was the
But
same
yeah,
kinda
that was a
good-
fun one.
Yeah, same kind of good moment as the fight with the mom. I didn't even realize for sure that it was his mom at first. I was kind of like,
Yeah.
was that just a monster impersonating? But
I
no,
wondered the
it,
same
it
thing.
was. Yeah. But it does a good job of setting up where you're kind of like, as a person, I don't really want Kratos to kill this person. But as the player, I kind of want to see him kill the person. I thought the Midas death was a good moment.
It just
It was
throws
just
him
cool.
right into the lava, doesn't he?
Yeah. And then it turns to gold around him.
Yes.
So we have a wall to climb later that we need.
Nick, did you have like a little, like an element we haven't brought up or a moment that you want to shout out before we move?
Yeah, there was one moment that I was looking for because I remembered the God of War 3 angle that like every time a god dies, there's some kind of natural calamity, disaster. I was kind of looking for that to happen at the end of the Thanatos fight, and it didn't happen. But I thought that character design was really cool. Ares is the only god design I've ever disliked in the God of War series. I just felt like he had too much going on. But Thanatos, I thought he was like interesting character, good bad guy. A little less nice and sexy from his Hades portrayal.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. I was like, do you want to do a throuple with me and Laufey? But he didn't want to.
It didn't work. I'm sorry to hear that.
No.
Char, did you have something undiscussed that you wanted to shout out?
Yeah, I think a moment, because I beat the game for the third time today, right before recording this, and a moment that I hadn't remembered that I was like, oh, this is like a really fun design for an encounter is, we have the ones where it's like you're fighting and the ceiling's collapsing and stuff, and that's just like you have to get out of there. But the one that I thought was really well designed was where all those wheels are on the side and you have to break all of the wheels.
Yeah.
And once you break all the wheels,
me
the
a
door
second.
opens. Yeah. And it's like you use the fire and do that. And there's something about like slowly breaking them and like you're like having a way to end it early. I think is something that I always appreciate because a lot of times God of War does tend to just put you in a like, it's like every one of these is the trash compactor from Star Wars. Like you're just like constantly trying to get out before something collapses on you. But this was I appreciate stuff where it's like there's a puzzle you're also trying to complete before this happens, which I thought was cool.
That moment, Charlie, was one of those where I think you might even be like, there might be enemies descending on you in that wheel moment. And it took me way too long to realize I should be doing something and not just killing these enemies.
It took me a second too, where I was like, is this the dogs again where I throw them in there? And they're like, oh no, you can just, break them. But yeah, definitely a cool moment.
Separate. I thought of one fun moment. I really like Scylla's death scene. I like how it just keeps coming back and then he finally puts this like screw through its face and then its body's still there when gameplay starts. And I just kind of stood there looking at it for a minute.
It's inappropriate. Nick, how could you?
Yeah, that sea monster is like basically it's stalking you for the first like third of the
Yes.
game. It's like
Yeah.
and it's very cool to that they, to have like a persistent enemy like that who shows
Hmm.
up at random times.
That first time it pulled me underwater, that was a big wow moment
Yeah.
for me.
Janet, did you get to share one more thing yet?
I mean, I had my King Midas thing. I mean, one thing that's kind of funny that we haven't touched on that I guess we maybe should release briefly is this is like older God of War, so it's like randomly sexual. So we have
Hmm.
like
Brothel.
the brothel where it's like, oh, he's so good in bed. The women are just like going to. I'm like, that's not how it works. You need to pay for that. Like, they're not just.
Yeah.
This is a job. But even just like one thing that's like definitely has evolved in the franchise, but also like it's weird because it's like obviously it's mythology, so like there being some nudity isn't really that crazy. And for the most part, I think these games actually do age pretty well. Like there is the dumb like minigame sex scenes in
Hmm.
a lot of them, but usually that's mostly its only offense. But one thing I did think was a little crazy is when you kill Erin's, you like stab her like through her like clavicle where her like breasts are like splayed in a way where I was like, okay,
Yes.
someone just wanted to see some titties. Like
Yes.
like this clearly like someone was like, okay, y'all dragging it a little bit. And then it's funny because you have a QTE there, and I was like, I don't even know what this QTE is asking me right
Yeah.
now because you're just throwing this in my face. It was a bit much. But other than that, I in general, like I feel like people that maybe haven't played the older games might be like wondering about that. And like
Yeah.
there are a couple like extra stuff in God of War, but generally it actually is a pretty like regular franchise. It's not
And
really
you can
doing a lot
skip
of like
that
fan
one too.
service.
You can just
Yeah.
not go into the brothel if you
Oh no, you need to go into the brothel because you need those
Yeah.
orbs. Like, and you get a lot of orbs. I would
lot
actually
of-
say it's literally like you have to do it. Like, I think you just, you know, go in a safe space and like get this thing done because you get like I don't like thousands. I was
Yeah.
like,
I think
and you do
Kratos
get a
also
little bit
has
if you
like
do it again. Yes, I checked for the, for the orbs because they're really like important currency. You get like 4 after that, so it's like
Yeah, just
once
the
is
orbs.
enough.
I think that Kratos
just
has
the
like
orbs.
the Pirates of the Caribbean curse where like there's no he can never be like he can never be satisfied by anything. So it's like every sexual encounter in the series is like empty for him, but for
I'm angry.
yeah, but it's like but he does it in a way that's like, oh, I'm just trying to feel something.
Yeah. I was very curious again as a newcomer to the I guess the old type of God of War games. I was like, is that going to be in this one? And I was sure enough, I did see in Sparta and interact with that moment.
I
I'll
think
say
these
that.
It's
older
one of the
games
crazier ones, I
Yeah,
think.
this
compared
one
to the
has the
other
most.
scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because usually there's like a scene, but it's like less. I remember it being like less graphic. Like this one's like way more like, I mean, it's not you see him have sex, but it's like, it's just doing a lot, which I'm like,
Yes.
okay, this is, and it also reminded me of that. I don't know if y'all have seen that sort of meme that surfaced like on TikTok primarily, but people will be like, oh, this game when you're playing alone, this game when your mom walks in,
yeah.
it's like whatever
Yes.
kissing scene or sex scene. It's like it was definitely giving like God of War when your like parents walk in the room. It's like, oh yeah, like what's that? It's like, whoa, that's not what the game has been like for the
Yes.
rest of the time.
My
But,
big
yeah.
moment like that was having all my dude friends over. We're watching Wanted, and at the beginning of that action movie, James McAvoy's girlfriend cheats on him with Chris Pratt, and there's a brief sex scene, and I heard my dad walking down the hall. I'm like, oh shoot. I press pause. He walks in, and it's just Chris Pratt's butt on screen. And all my guy friends are just staring stone faced at it. And he just
That's
turned around and walked away.
before Chris Pratt's butt got weird, I guess.
It was not buff.
Oh, well, folks, we're about to head out here, but really quick, I wanted to give everyone last chance to just share some closing summary of thoughts here. I'll kick us off and just say, like, I've been expressing a lot of praise about this game. I was so impressed. I think so much of it was because I was able to, play this what felt like completely full God of War experience. Again, my first, but what felt like that on this little console, and it held up so well. But between the like combat and for me the narrative pacing and the spectacle, it really did so much, and it made me so curious to want to go check out, especially the original trilogy. And I'll probably check out Chains of Olympus because I have a PSP. I may as well, but if I get curious enough. But yeah, I was so impressed by this, and it became something that while I had different play spurts, I would like play for a few minutes, use one of those many frequent saves and put it down, or I would just marathon it for an hour and a half to 2 hours on a plane ride. I really just couldn't get enough. So yeah, I really liked this game. Nick, I'll turn to you. What are your final thoughts here?
Final thoughts. I thought this game was a blast. I said it was a blind spot for me. So I didn't really know what to expect. And I thought the gameplay, the story, the spectacle, it was all very wow.
Very well indeed. Janet, how about you?
Yeah, I thought this was a good game, quite strong. Definitely recommend it if you're looking for stuff to play on the PSP. I think it is a good representation of also just what God of War is. But I think my big takeaway playing this sort of after playing almost everything else, like generally in the release order, is just how impressed and surprised I am by like how much God of War is always what it's been, and like looking in the old games, you can really see like the new games again, playing this and being like, oh my God, the Metroidvania with the brother that's in this game. And in there you also go to Sparta and it looks exactly the same as it did when you went here. Obviously it's 2D instead of 3D. And having those connective points were really interesting, and seeing just like what kind of motifs they touch on and how that's always been the case. So yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. Thought the cutscenes were quite fun. Like they were good enough where I would like turn the PSP to like my husband Isaiah and be like, "Yo, like check out what's going on in here," because they were genuinely like that interesting. So yeah, and again, a great game to play in short bursts because you'll always know where you're going. It's easy to pick up. And it's really like nicely and like smallly designed. Like it's a nice tight package. And yeah, definitely recommend this game to anyone that's just again looking for a good game to play on PSP and are open to the God of War franchise. I don't even think you necessarily need to be a fan. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and easy to get into. So yeah, had a good time with it. You'll hit a few friction points probably, but they're very easy to work through, and you kind of just get to know the rhythm of the game as you keep playing.
Yeah, those points, I felt were manageable eventually, even if I felt them too. Charlie, close us out, pal.
Yeah, obviously I loved this game. I think what I'd like to say for God of War, especially the pre-PS4 era as a whole, is I think the internet likes to develop shorthand for things because we have to talk about things really quickly in a short amount of time because people's attention spans are really short. And I think this series has gotten a reputation as being kind of an edgelord series. And it's not an edgelord series. It's very edgy. It is edgy, but like Duke Nukem is an edgelord series. Like there's edgelordiness, really immaturity is a big part of it. Yes, like I would say that you can cringe at the fact that there is a sex mini game in a lot of these older ones, and that is a relic of a previous time. But the craft that went into making each one of these games, like the fact that every enemy, every hallway, every area, no matter how minor, is so intricately designed and so evocative of what you imagine ancient Greece to be and the epic scale of it. This is a game that is mythology is incredibly edgy. Every myth you read is about people fucking, it's about people killing each other, backstabbing, drama, all of that stuff, and this fits so nicely into the idea of Greek mythology. Like I would say that like these games are like art in and of themselves. They are beautiful to look at, beautiful to behold. And, there's some dated aspects of the gameplay and things like that. But just going through it, it's like if you took everything in this and, and made it look ugly, you'd still be like, oh, this is still a really well-designed combat system and everything like that, but the extra layer of care that went into, like you said, pulling the camera back when you're heading down something that's just essentially a long loading hallway, and showing you like where you've been and where you're going now and where you need to go. And like every time you walk into a new area and you take it all in, I'm like, there's just like nothing like it.
Well said. And I want to hear Connor's thoughts, but can we just all agree Kratos is canon in Greek mythology at this point?
He was real to me.
Yeah, it's real to me.
I'm gonna go talk to my my pre-AP English teacher from freshman year and be like, Mr. Aguilera, there's someone I need to teach you about, and his name is Kratos.
You know, the reason there's no more Greek gods is because Kratos killed them all.
That's why. I'll share that with him. But folks, thank you all so much for being here and talking about this game. This was so much fun today doing this. I've been excited to do this because I've been playing this game for like a month here and there. So yeah, I can't wait to see what we've got coming on this series next. But before we go, I want to give everybody a chance to plug. Nick, I'll start with you. Thanks again for being here, buddy. This is great having you back. I can't do a God of War episode without you. What do you want to plug?
Thank you for inviting me, Connor. You're the best. I love this crew. I just want to plug my socials, and I got one little personal plug. I am excited. I brought up Hades before. On this day of all days, my old friend Reed sent me a Nintendo Switch 2.
What?
Out of the kindness of his heart.
Heck?
And I have had Hades 2 downloaded on my Switch 1, and when I downloaded it, it said there's features that you can't access because you don't have a Switch 2. And I decided I'm not playing until I get one, and one has arrived.
Wow. Well, Nick, congratulations. Looks like we know a couple people who got Switch 2s today, but I'm really happy for you and excited for you to embrace the more Greek mythology, and thanks for being here again. Janet, thanks again for doing this. This is so much fun having you on today. What do you want to plug?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll just plug my socials as well. Again, I'm on, and I guess the podcast I'm on. So socials, Gameonysus, that's Game ONYSUS, on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. And then podcasts I'm on, I do a podcast called The MinMax Show. I do work on Remap Radio. I have an indie podcast called The Indie Council, and I do a podcast with my husband called The Gamecast, aka the Games and Not Games podcast. And then also through MinMax, I have Pew Pew Bang, which is an all-women podcast that's meant to feel like a slumber party. But yeah, that's where you can find me and my work.
All of those podcasts are great. And for the PSP heads out there, there's like a 4-hour episode on
PSP
Pew Pew Bang about the
episode,
PSP
where I got to get my second PSP. I got one that's mod ready and emulator ready.
Beautiful.
So now I can be in the dark arts, even though I do really like getting the physical UMDs still a lot. And PSP is very hot right now, and this game is very hard to get physical.
Yes, it is.
The reason I emulated it is because I could not get it in stores yet. I called around a couple times and they're like, sorry, it sells out really quick. So obviously people were gearing up for our podcast, and we're sorry for crashing the God of War Ghost of Sparta secondhand market.
Truly. I have one game on UMD, and it's Hot Shots Golf because it was $5 at my local store. But Charlie, dude, thanks again for being here, buddy. 2 months in a row, and I swear I'm never going to forget you were just on the pod. What do you want to plug, buddy?
Baywatch Watch, wherever podcasts are found. You can follow me at my helicopter. You're just going to see a lot of pictures of my baby.
Follow for Freddy.
Follow for Freddy content. I guess check out the Resident Evil 4 Games Club that's airing on the free feed right now, because I was part of that.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear me talk more, that was a series that I'd never played before, so that was my entry into Resident Evil.
That's right.
It was a good one.
It was so much fun. So go listen. I think it's on episode 5 aired this week, and it's an 11-part series. So it's on the free feed at Super NPC Games Club. But yeah, I'll plug us out with some plugs of my own and for the show. Anything that anyone's already plugged, you can find a link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Patreon, scroll down. I'll have that listed there in a nice organized link next to people's names, including the cover artist for Call Me By Your Game is Glenn J. You can find his Instagram and a link in the show notes. The editing, producing, and original music for this podcast that you've heard throughout is done by Jeremy Schmidt. You can follow Call Me By Your Game on Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also follow the network at Super NPC Radio on all of those places as well. You can follow me on Blue Sky and Twitch if you'd like as well. And then finally, again, if you like the content that we make here at Super NPC Radio, you like listening to our video game podcasts, you can support us a few ways. You can share this podcast with a friend, whether they love God of War or this game specifically, or check us out on Patreon. Even if you subscribe at the free tier, you get access to the Discord, and there are free perks that come up every so often for that, like that the series Charlie was mentioning, Resident Evil 4 Remake. It's airing on the free feed right now every week, but the whole thing's out there for free patrons. So there's a bunch of stuff. There's even paid tiers if you want to support us that way. But yeah, a ton of video game podcasts to listen to. But thank you for listening to Call Me By Your Game Co-op, episode 70. We'll see you next month when I cover something else. Goodbye for now.